and I don't mean Mike and I. Mike, let's break down the series Lakers versus the Rockets. That's Michael. I'm Nathan. What are we called, Mike?
Above the Break.
Above the Break, the latest and greatest basketball show here on Content Cube. We broke down the Eastern Conference videos. Go check those out when you get a sec. As for this one, series is tied 1-1, Mike. It's been exciting so far.
Yep.
I want to know, the Lakers obviously were one of the favorites coming into it, but when the Rockets played their defense, they won the game, right? When they can control, I think James Harden said something about heart over height, right?
Yep.
Can you break down for me what the Rockets have to do to knock off the favorite Lakers after barely beating the OKC Thunder?
Yeah, I think OKC posed such an issue with them because Chris Paul also was like a mole. He was like a dark agent. Like, he was just like, okay, well, I know exactly what you guys are running. Your coach does the same thing. Your best player does the same thing. Lord knows Westbrook isn't as good as me. I'm gonna coach these kids and make them push you guys to the very brink of elimination. Quite literally, it came down to the last shot. That all being said, the Rockets have the best defense in the league right now, and it's kind of scary. They defend as a team. They've got this weird hybrid of man, but really it's kind of just zone until it's not zone anymore. And they're guarding guys that are bigger by, double teaming, especially against the Lakers, where the Lakers don't shoot the three. Well, they're probably the worst three-point shooting team left in the playoffs right now. Not even probably, they are. Statistically, they were 22nd in the league in threes in the regular season. So with that being said, you don't have to worry about going and doubling someone like Anthony Davis and being like, oh, we're going to burn from outside. Is Rondo going to drip him from three? Is KCP a consistent shooter? How about Danny Green looking like a shell of himself from the championship form he was in for the Raptors? People are scratching their heads and wondering about this feast or famine from three as a Laker fan. And when Houston is bombing, listen, they were down 21 against the Lakers, and that third quarter, they hit 7 of 9 threes. The Houston Rockets are built to come back from any deficit, and they ended up with a 6-point lead at one point in game 2. The Lakers pulled it out because simply the Rockets went cold from three. The Rockets play a style of offense that is, it doesn't matter who you have on the other side. You're not going to block 3-point shots. So if they're falling, you're in trouble. And and then that's when you need your stars like Anthony Davis and LeBron James to come and combat that. They don't have an answer for AD or LeBron down low. They both dominated. LeBron James was, I think, 9 of 12 from inside the 2-point in 2-point area, and AD was just dominating. Only took one attempt from three and hit it last game, finishing off. I think it was 15 of 22 from the field. So very efficient performance from him. That being said, it was close. And the Rockets lost because they didn't hit threes in the end. That's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, and players received a lot of criticism for his performances as of late, and you touched on him a little, has been Russell Westbrook. Can you tell me a little bit about, for one, why is he struggling in the playoffs so far? And if he starts to perform to the level that we know he can, could the Rockets realistically knock off the Lakers in the series?
Why he's struggling, first of all. And yes, let's put the second part of the question first. Westbrook, if he performs, the Lakers are in serious trouble, dire trouble. They got rid of Capella to open up the paint so that he could be their point center in a way where he can just run in and go free to the basket, because he's the only guy in their rotation who doesn't hit threes with any consistency. Let's be honest, with any consistency. He attempted 7 threes last game, 1 of 7. That was the most 3-point attempts that he's attempted in the last 3 years in a playoff game. That is including greedy Westbrook, who was averaging triple doubles. He was shooting less threes in that situation. So and you have more 3-point shooters around you now. Russell Westbrook's biggest issue, it's his mentality. And what I mean is that there's guys that don't play with enough heart, and there's guys that play with too much emotion. He's part of the latter. There's too much emotion. He's not in the moment. He gets in his own head, and he ends up shooting 4 of 15. Tell me why a guy like Russell Westbrook is attempting one less 3-point attempt than James Harden. That makes no sense. Why is Russell Westbrook attempting one less shot than Eric Gordon, who had it going the entire night, 8 of 16 from the field in total, 50% from the field. Meanwhile, you have Russell Westbrook shooting 23%. Before the pandemic, Russell Westbrook over his last 25 games was shooting 52% from the field. and averaging 32 points. We're seeing 16 points a game with a slashing line of 23% from the field. He's shooting 16% from three, and he's shooting 45% at the free throw line. What? And all those turnovers, obviously, they're not going to out-rebound anybody. If you're not going to out-rebound people, you've got to turn the ball over less than them, because there's no way you're going to win games by turning it over more and getting out-rebounded. That's going to be a problem.
Fair enough. So what we saw in game 2 was it looked like when LeBron and AD can get going, they're very, very hard to stop. Now, especially because Houston plays small ball, controlling these giant trees coming at you, and LeBron literally trying to rip the rim off with every dunk that he's trying to like literally intimidate them. Talk to me a little bit about these Lakers and how they can use their size to their advantage in the small ball rather than as a weakness in their mobility, maybe.
Right. So in the Lakers case, unfortunately, math isn't on their side. 3 is greater than 2. So 2 threes can equate 3 buckets from your big guys going inside, which means you need to lock down defensively. That means you need to be able to, obviously, you're not going to be able to stop the 3-point barrage, but if they do miss, understand long shots mean long rebounds. How are we going to secure those rebounds? Rondo was an absolute X factor for these guys. He played 28 minutes, and he was a plus 28. That's a +1 for every minute that you're on the court. That is incredible. For perspective, LeBron James had a stellar game, and he was a +15. So if Rondo's coming out there and getting 5 steals like he did last game, not turning – I think he turned it over once and had 9 assists, that's playoff Rondo. And that's something well documented. I don't care if it was on New Orleans when they got bounced the first time when he was playing with AD, but back then, if it was on Boston during their championship run in his sophomore year, every time Rondo steps on the court in the playoffs, he shows up and he shows out. And this time he locked down and clamped them down defensively. James Harden was having some fits. James Harden only got up 12 shots, and when he's accustomed to shooting 18, that's because he's not going to shoot stupid shots. That's why I would commend James Harden for not taking bad shots, but you've got to find a way to get open at this point now, because Rondo can't be locking you down to get you 12 shots. So it starts at the defensive end in terms of pressuring, trapping, and being able to get that rebound after they miss, if they miss.
So Len, with this is the Lakers have probably the biggest power duo in the NBA, and a lot of people picked them from the beginning to bring home, the big gold trophy. If the Lakers can maintain the form that they kept in game 2, right, where LeBron is swatting basketballs and he's not letting anything get by him, and he's playing that hardcore championship defense. For one, do Houston have a chance if LeBron is playing like that? And furthermore, does anybody have a chance if LeBron is playing like that at 35?
Crazy 17th year in the league. I would say his league, and technically it is. But let's be honest here. It's one of the best duos of all time as well. That all being said, the Rockets have found a way, like mad scientists, to put themselves in any game. So yes, LeBron could go all time. AD could go all time, and they could still lose because 3 is greater than 2, and they're going to be hawking up 63s. And if they shoot anywhere near 42% of those threes going down, the Lakers are in trouble, because now you guys need to shoot threes. And I don't see that level of ability to hit threes with any consistency from any of them. And if 3 is greater than 2 and they're hitting as many field goals as you, but they're hitting threes, you're going down for every single bucket that they're hitting. The Rockets are one of the few teams that are able to beat them. And I think the only other team that really has a really solid chance, where I'm looking at the series and going, that's a 50-50 shot, it's the Rockets like we're talking about now, and it's the Clippers, because they have 2 guys that can go up against them, because playoff P is actually here. There's a lot of pandemic P and all these different things that were going on when he wasn't showing up. Ever since that game 4 against the Portland Trail Blazers, he's been showing up every single game. He dropped 28 last game. He's been huge for them. And if he continues to do what he's doing and Kawhi can keep doing what he's doing, that's a two-hit punch, where now it comes down to depth. The same reason the Rockets have that ability. You have 2 guys that can match in some kind of respect. Westbrook is on a tier below that, I'd say, but there's 2 guys that can try to match the performance of the other 2 guys, and then it comes down to depth. When you've got the depth like the Clippers have and the depth like the Rockets have, you definitely have a shot at any game, even if AD and LeBron are going off, because they're not, let's be honest, they're top heavy as bleep.
Yeah, and that's going to do it for us previewing the Lakers versus the Rockets. But we're not done out west. Coming up, we're going to preview the Clippers taking on Denver and how exciting that series has been and will continue to be. We're going to see